very much for being here. I was coming to Karachi, and I reached out to IBA saying that I'd like to come and speak here. Because I think the Foreign Office needs to get out of its building and come and talk to people so that they understand what we do there, and that we are not just sitting in our offices in Islamabad or in our embassies outside without any real work being done, which sometimes is the impression that's created. I'd like to just do a brief presentation and then look forward to any questions that you have. I'm sure you'll have lots of questions. Let me say that I put my foot in the mouth when I decided to come today, especially when Mr. Trump put his foot in the mouth when he sent out that tweet. So, but I will talk about anything, and I'll try and focus on some of the most important issues that we face. I'd like to also thank the diplomatic community and the media for being here. Pakistan's foreign policy challenges, policy opportunities and challenges. Foreign policy objectives of Pakistan quickly promotion of Pakistan as a dynamic, progressive, moderate and democratic Islamic country. This is what we do outside. Pursuing mutually beneficial relations with other countries, especially major powers and immediate neighbors. Safeguarding national security and geostrategic vital interests, including sovereignty and territorial integrity, resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, which is an important part of our policy objectives, strengthen Pakistan's economic potential, investment through enhanced trade and investment opportunities, safeguarding interests of Pakistani diaspora abroad. I know lots of you think that we don't do much with the Pakistani diaspora, but you would also realize that the diaspora has increased manyfold, and hence the challenges have also become manyfold for embassies that are smaller and have our numbers haven't increased for a long time. Ensuring optimal utilization of national resources for regional and international cooperation, promoting scientific and technological cooperation, and of course human resource development. And this is where your collaboration with us is extremely important, because it's the human resource development work that you do here can feed into the work that we do as well. And the last slide would be particularly interesting from your point of view. How to achieve these objectives: cordial relations with all countries, difficult challenge, especially in the world today. Proactive, result-oriented diplomatic outreach, another big challenge. Balancing national security and imperatives of regional peace and prosperity. Positive engagement with regional and international organizations. I'm running through it so that we have more time for question and answer. Regular monitoring of changing geopolitical environment and recommendations to the leadership for necessary adjustments. And now this is not regular monitoring, but minute-to-minute monitoring, because now there's a lot of focus on Pakistan, as you would know. The global and regional environment, United States, America first is the slogan that comes as a part of Trump coming into power. A retraction from global engagement. They've gone out of the TPP, climate change. Alignment with the EAP, East Asia and Pacific. They're focusing on maritime security. You must have heard about the Quad, where Australia, Japan, India, and the US are working together for navigation, having open navigation pathways. South China Sea dispute is another point of concern within the context of the East Asia Pacific region. Indo-US strategic partnership is both commercial and strategic, and that's one thing that we need to reflect on a lot, because this partnership is not just a partnership between India and the United States, but also has clear linkages with Afghanistan as well. And therefore, obviously, we have India on one side, we have Afghanistan on the other side, and in the middle of this is the presence of the United States in Afghanistan as well, which is a great challenge, as you know. Uncertain decision-making in the United States is the personality versus the institution. The institutional decision-making is clearly not there. The tweet on the 1st of January was a tweet that came for many reasons. We've tried to analyze why that tweet came. It could have been some briefing that was done to the president, a briefing material that may have been given to the president early in the morning, that he read early in the morning, so he sent out the tweet at 4 in the morning. It could have been briefing that he got late in the night, which spurred this on. What triggered it? We keep on asking. Because we mustn't forget that the meetings that we had with the Americans, which was whether it was with Tillerson and more with Mattis, the Secretary of Defense Mattis, the meeting was extremely, I won't say extremely, the word's too heavy, but was positive. There were positive messages that came out of it, and the possibility of engagement was very much there. Yet in the morning of the 1st, New Year's gift to the world, because there were 2 tweets. There was one tweet about Pakistan, and the other tweet was about Iran. So obviously, why was the President of the United States at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking about Pakistan and Iran? Iran, there was something happening there, but Pakistan, question mark. It could have been, well, I will try here not to go into the other reasons that we thought triggered it, but I'd be ready to respond to that, to any questions in this regard. NATO itself, United States has been an important actor in NATO, but it has moved from assertion of authority as a unified bloc to fissures, because you can see that the United States, that when President Trump went to NATO, he basically said, he didn't talk about strategy, he didn't talk about the other issues, he's talked about burden sharing. Let's all split the money that we spent. So that was an important one. Increase in extremist sentiments. There is this unfortunate reality which is coming up, and it's in our neighborhood as well, which is white supremacy vis-a-vis the role of minorities in the United States as well. Recent hostile statements towards Pakistan. Trump's tweet on 1st of January. And if you backtrack a bit, US-South Asia policy, on the US-South Asia policy, we've gone out and very clearly stated our concerns about it. We say, of course, any country has a right to have its own strategy, but we've had several conversations with the United States, and we would like these conversations, reflection of these conversations in policy coming out of Washington. Our concerns that were highlighted in the statement that came out of the National Security Committee of the Cabinet basically identified a number of our concerns. One, of course, that our concerns had not necessarily been taken on board. Number 2, we have concerns about the net security provider role that was being given to India in our region, and there was a real concern that he had expressed to the United States. Then that it was important that to deal with terrorism, issues that are common concern to both countries. We needed to work, we were working on border management issues, and that it was an area where the United States had agreed with us, and that we should have had some reflection in it as well. And there were a number of other issues that we also elaborated. Then, of course, the US National Security Strategy 2017 came up again, and in which we also got mention of, not very positive mention of it, I may say so. But obviously, this was a pattern that appeared to have been set. It started with the US South Asia policy, and then went on to the US National Security Strategy, and then President Trump's tweet. So was this by design? The first two, the last two may have been by some design, because we mustn't forget who is drafting policy in the United States right now, and if there's someone from the US consulate here, please tell us what's happening, because we don't quite understand what's happening. When you look at the responses that have been given in the last 1 week, since the tweet that was sent out by President Trump, no one seems to be knowing where did the tweet come from. Is the tweet going to determine policy, or has policy determined the tweet. But they have told, I mean, when you look at the various writings and statements that come out, it appears that this was a pattern that ended in a tweet, and that it could have been an expression of some frustration. But we have to work that out. In any case, our policy right now with the United States is that we will continue to have engagement as far as possible with the United States, because the United States is not only the power, one of the major power globally, but is also within our region. So for us, it's almost a neighbor. So we have to continue to have engagement. And then, of course, we need to continue to have a measured response to all this rhetoric that is coming out of Washington. Because now is the time where, as a mature country and a society that has been confronted with many, many challenges, comes out, rises up above the current situation and looks at the situation in a mature manner, where we can, out of this crisis, find a way out, where we can develop a relationship, or work on a relationship and an engagement with the United States, which is long-term, and where we can address each other's issues. General Mattis on the 5th had a press briefing in which he made one point, and I'd like to bring here today. He said there are lots of things that are happening behind closed doors. We need to do a lot of stuff behind closed doors instead of coming up openly and making statements which incense all of you, which incense the public outside as well. We, as the ones who are sort of involved in policy making, are trying very hard to keep the lid as much as possible on this situation and to see ways of engagement. So we are looking forward to engagement, and there are possibilities that are there, if I may say so. Of course, one of the major reasons, or one of the reasons that we find this region in a difficult situation is because of the rise of China, which is seen as an economic and military global power, perceived as a challenger to US dominance. US policy of rebalance to Asia Pacific is aimed towards China. US is encouraging India as a counterweight, and that's where the conflict also comes up. South China Sea is seen as a theater of future contest. The growing significance of China post-US disengagement from global issues. Right now, some of the pointers in this region are Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, of which I will be talking a bit of CPEC later as well, engagement with the ASEAN after TPP, and economic convergence with the EU. India is seeking big power status, and it's seeking big power status not only in the context of trying to be a member of the UN Security Council, to be the regional hegemon in many ways, and the actions it has taken in the recent past, for example, towards building its credentials as a big power, are pointers towards to this end. US envisaged role in net security provider in the Asia-Pacific region, which is now being termed as, it's not new, it has come from 2005, wherein the region, where the Asia-Pacific region is now being defined by some as the Indo-Pacific region. And we had the great honor of having His Excellency, the Foreign Minister of Japan, yesterday in Pakistan. It was a really good visit, and there was a conversation about the Indo-Pacific region where we expressed our concerns, why we have concerns about not only the term Indo-Pacific region, because it means that you are just basically the net security provider concept is being translated in many ways in the region as well. Of course, Prime Minister Modi is promoting Hindu fundamentalism in India. It's a reality. I don't have to talk about more about it. It has an impact on Muslims and minorities in India. Efforts to destabilize Pakistan are an ongoing process, which we see it in the case of serving commander of the Indian Navy, working for all, Mr. Jadev, as well. State-sponsored terrorism by India through Afghanistan is also a reality. I see some heads shaking when I talk about that. Belligerence on the line of control. There have been more than 2,000 violations that have taken place, which is an absolute new that has happened. There have been demographic and other permanent changes taking place in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So obviously this is indicative of the policy, of the state of mind in India. Of course, as I said earlier, creating instability through Afghanistan and Pakistan, and not responding to any of our offers for dialogue. My boss is not very happy with that. Ambassador Najmuddin Sheikh, we don't look very happy. Afghanistan. In India-US nexus is very much there, is developing, and we see it happening all the time in the context of what we see along the border with Afghanistan. Using Afghan institutions for double squeeze in Pakistan and to counter China. Pakistan held responsible for the failures of the international campaign in Afghanistan, and that is a reflection, that's also reflected in the tweet. Situation in Afghanistan is complex. There is an internal divide. There are ungoverned spaces, and we've been talking about these ungoverned spaces. We're going to see the report that comes out of the United States. 44% of the territory is ungoverned spaces. So when they talk about sanctuaries in Pakistan, we've been telling the Americans that as far as American friends, that as far as Pakistan is concerned, in the cleanup operations that we have undertaken, right up to, especially under Khyber 4, we've reached right up to the border with Afghanistan. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, there is no organized presence of the Haqqani network, which is what they keep on talking about. And if you have any information, through intelligence sharing, we can address this issue. But unfortunately, there seems to be this chorus about the presence of the Haqqani network inside the borders of Pakistan. We have expressed our deep concern on the presence of, on the contrary, on the presence of sanctuaries in Afghanistan, of those individuals and groups that are anti-Pakistan and that have used the Afghan territory to attack Pakistan. There have been several individuals who have been arrested, who were involved, who were planning to attack Pakistan, various places in Pakistan, especially during the Muharram period, but mercifully that was avoided. In Afghanistan, there's of course increase in drug production by 87%. So in the ungoverned spaces, as well as in some of the other areas, the drug production has risen so much that now whoever is fighting in Afghanistan, the Taliban, the TTA, whoever is there has enough money coming out of Afghanistan itself through the drug production, the sale of drugs. And that's a major concern for us as well. And let us not forget that when we talk about the complex situation in Afghanistan, there is an increasing presence of the Daesh that is taking place in Afghanistan. And the Daesh is appearing more and more towards the south of the Central Asian republics and along the borders of Pakistan as well. So it's a matter of immense concern to us, and we've raised it with our American friends many times, as these are concerns which directly affect the security and stability of Pakistan. Terrorist attacks in Pakistan, as I said, from safe havens in Afghanistan, and of course the fact that there are conflicting and competing interests in Afghanistan. Pakistan is one neighbor. There are several other neighbors that are there, and that there are many other actors who are involved in Afghanistan as well. So to put all failures in Afghanistan at the doorsteps of Pakistan is not the way out of the current situation. The American policy now, it appears to be that of compellence, which is to compel Pakistan under pressure to respond to their legitimate or not illegitimate demands. The reality is that since the national security strategy, the South Asian strategy, the national security strategy has come out, there has been very clear messaging that's been done by Pakistan, where Pakistan has said, you've been telling us to do more. We would want you to also do something on the Afghan side so that the situation in Pakistan, because as far as peace and stability in the region is concerned, we have tried to do our best, but the Afghans need to, and the Americans, and all those who are in Afghanistan need to do more. The Middle East is, of course, another difficult area. Persistent turmoil, GCC countries and Qatar, I will not elaborate because I think I'm taking more time than leaving less time for questions and answers. Tension between Iran and Gulf states, clear US tilt is there. What's happening in Iran, what has happened in Iran in the last 2 weeks, and what has been said by President Rouhani, I shall not repeat, but are indicators of what the situation is within the region. It is also indicators of what happened. Palestine is an example. Jerusalem, naming Jerusalem as the capital of, or recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel is another point. It's like putting more oil to the fire that's already there. Pakistan's challenges, its limitations to balanced relationship. We've been trying very hard to have a balanced relationship with our friends within the Gulf region, but it is a challenge. It is a huge challenge, and obviously it creates difficulties, more and more difficulties for any country that wants to have friendly relations with all the entire membership of the Gulf region. The GCC is under threat, as you know. Sectarian divide, exploitation is going on. There's Syria, Iraq, Lebanon in turmoil. Lebanon has been stabilized to some degree because of the return of Prime Minister Hariri, but there are problems there as well. Resurgent Russia asserting its role in Syria, Afghanistan, Iran, and other regional issues, building contacts with the Taliban, because the objective of the Russians also is peace and stability within the region, and for that effect, everyone has relations or conversations with the Taliban. It's not to say that one is doing it and the other is not doing it. It's happening from everywhere because everyone is trying to see how to work out, if possible, some peace and stability seen in Afghanistan. US-Russia relations tug of war and prospects of peace despite Trump's earliest gestures. Russia seen as an enemy by Trump. The China-Russia alliance, plans of cooperation between BRI and EU. And may I say here very categorically that we are very satisfied with the relationship with Russia that we have, and we are pleased to see that the conversations that have taken place between our prime ministers in Sochi and earlier on in Astana with President Putin and with Prime Minister Medvedev have been excellent and have clear indications of how we see a very flourishing relationship between Pakistan and Russia. Opportunities. Well, this opportunity slide remains valid if we can somehow deal with the current situation, and I'm sure I can assure you that we will find a way out. But anyway, just to highlight the opportunities, increasing regional and global connectivity offers immense opportunities for Pakistan, a country with more than 200 million population, with efficient human resource base, and a base that we want to make more efficient as well. There's CPEC, there's TAPI, and CASTA 100. Pakistan's membership of regional organizations, SAARC of course is important, but has been in a state of stalemate because of India's reluctance to have us to let us hold the SAARC summit, which was supposed to be done the year before and then last year. So that's a sort of an area, but we are still members of it, and we're working at a low level and going to meet in SAARC meetings. ECO has been, from our perspective, a success to a great degree. We held the ECO 13th ECO summit in Islamabad, where, with the exception, where all member states came of ECO came at a relatively high level, mostly at President, Prime Minister, or Deputy Prime Minister level, other than Afghanistan. SCO, joining SCO has been extremely helpful because it now makes us a part of a region that SCO looks at all issues of security, terrorism, etc. So it's been a very significant, and we thank all members of SCO who helped us in this regard, especially China and Russia, who supported us strongly in becoming members of SCO. Central Asian Regional Economic Cooperation, CAREC is an economic cooperation association where a lot of work on connectivity issues is done. APEC, ASEM, Asia Cooperation Dialogue, D8, ASEAN Regional Forum, sectoral dialogue partner of ASEAN. Gains in CT operations leading to increase in domestic stability and macroeconomic uplift, and of course, you have more to say on this than I have. Current focus for the Foreign Office, furthering strategic partnership with China, and of course the first and foremost right now is to deal. The most important thing in the current situation is that we should not get we should not just remain focused on the United States, because there are other relationships that are very important for us and that we continue to work with. But with the United States, we will continue engagement at whatever level, and to see how we can, because for us it's important that we do not get, it's never useful to get in a conflict with any country, and especially a country which is a neighbor, now a neighbor in Afghanistan. Continued efforts for enhanced engagement with Afghanistan. We had recently given a program to Afghanistan, where we are supposed to set up 5 working groups dealing with economic issues, with trade, with border management, to see how we can move the relationship forward. Constructive participation in all processes for promoting peace and stability in Afghanistan. The QCG, the Quadrilateral Coordination Group, which includes China, Pakistan, United States, and Afghanistan, where we had very useful discussions in Muscat a few months ago. The Heart of Asia conference, which was held in Baku, where we also had a possibility of interacting with our Afghan partners and all the members of the Heart of Asia conference, Moscow format, and of course the Kabul format, which is another one. Basically, these are formats in trying to find a way out for peace and stability. Basically, the focus, QCG is focused on reconciliation. To find it's a mechanism which tries to see how we can work on reconciliation in Afghanistan. But are the Afghans willing to talk to each other? Big question mark. They will need a lot of perseverance and work from all countries. Return of Afghan refugees with dignity and honor, addressing safe havens in Afghanistan. We have said to our American partners that we find a lot of the terrorism activities that takes place in Pakistan has somehow or the other the possibility of disappearing amongst the refugee camps in Pakistan. So we'd like the refugees, which are now almost 3 million refugees, half of them, a little more than half of them are registered, the rest are unregistered refugees. We want them to return back to Afghanistan. We have spoken to the international community ourselves through the Americans, said basically the international community must show commitment to develop areas within Afghanistan where these refugees can go back, where livelihoods can be provided, etc. We get some attention on this, but in the last conversations we had with the Americans on this issue, there was some receptibility about the possibility of them working with other partners to see how some of these refugees can come and go back. There was a meeting of the cabinet 3 days ago, where a plan was presented by Minister Saffron that the refugees be given 6 more months to stay on. But the cabinet decided that we need to have a more practical solution to it, and that the minister should come back with another proposal. So an extension of 1 month has been given, and we have to see how that works out. You must understand that Pakistan has been recognized, Pakistan's generosity has been recognized by the international community. We had the most glowing comments made about how generous Pakistan has been, but I think there is now a lot of fatigue in communities where the Afghan refugees live. So there has to be a way to work out how the refugees go back, because we are also under obligation under international law not to get into to get into non-refoulement situations. So that's something which is, we can't forcibly push refugees back. Focus on border management with Afghanistan to prevent illegal cross-border movements. There is work that is going along the border on border management. We have spoken to the Americans as well and said that they had supported border management earlier and that they should support this. There has been some receptibility about it, but we have to see how that goes forward. But on our side, there is work going on to have some border controls. Of course, there can be huge discussion how effective these controls can be, but at least they can have a deterrent effect of not letting individuals come across the border into Pakistan or from Pakistan on the Afghan side as well. Strengthening exchanges with Iran in the field of trade, commerce and border management. Gawada, Chabahar, developing as sister ports. This is a signal that's been given very clearly by Rouhani as well, where he said these are sister ports. Our Minister for Maritime Affairs, Mr. Janjua, had gone for the launching of Chabahar, so it's just to demonstrate our sincerity and to ensure that we do not see Chabahar as competitive. Seek continued engagement with US, as I said, build on convergences, narrow down the differences, continued cooperation with US for shared objectives to defeat terrorism and promote regional stability, enhance relations with important regional countries, including Russia, Turkey, and Central Asian countries, strengthen engagement with the EU, a major trading partner. We have GSP Plus that is under review. The review is going on, is currently, the report of the review is going to be presented and it's going to go on. It's the middle, we are not going to have, there's a lot of misinformation that's spread that at this review, GSP Plus can be stopped for Pakistan, and that's not true. It's a review where we'll be informed as how the EU sees our implementation of the various obligations we undertook under GSP Plus. Maintain our principal position for a comprehensive dialogue with India without any preconditions and for addressing all issues. India says that they will only have a dialogue with Pakistan on terrorism. We say, yes, of course, we have terrorism issues as well, because we have also been subjected to state-sponsored terrorism by India as well. So if you want to talk about terrorism, we want to talk about terrorism, but we want to also talk about Jammu and Kashmir, and we want to talk about the other issues that are there. So we need to talk about these issues, but at this point, unfortunately, the current government in India is not willing to move forward on any kind of conversation, so we have to keep up issues and continue pursuing. CPEC, of course, is a great point of discussion in Pakistan. Pakistan is China's leading partner in the Belt and Road Initiative. BRI has 6 corridors, of which CPEC is it's only CPEC which is a bilateral project and which is in its implementation stage. CPEC is an opportunity for Pakistan to enhance connectivity and leapfrog on the path to development, connectivity not only within Pakistan but also within the region as well. CPEC has 4 pillars: energy cooperation, transport, infrastructure, industrial cooperation, and the Gawada port. Joint Cooperation Committee, the JCC, reviews its implementation and coordination. The last meeting was held in November. It had a comprehensive review of CPEC. Ongoing projects of CPEC are these. I shall not read them out. You can take a look quickly. Upcoming CPEC projects, special economic zones are key to the industrial cooperation cluster under CPEC. 9 sites have been identified. A long-time plan is signed at the 7th meeting in November. Based on contours of CPEC development until 2030, identifies additional key cooperation areas: education, agriculture, people-to-people contacts, financial cooperation, tourism, and poverty alleviation. Opportunities: Pakistan's geostrategic location at the confluence of South Asia, Central and West Asia. I know you hear about this all the time, but is this an opportunity? There is a lot of work that is being done, and we hope that the connectivity that is created within the region will help us gain our rightful place in the context of our region. Economic center of gravity shifting to Asia, market of 3 billion, abundant 3 billion people, abundant natural resources within capital development. Proximity to Central Asia, potential for energy security and infrastructure security. CPEC, a pathway to industrial development in Pakistan. Yes, you will say that how can this be possible if Afghanistan is not at peace? Well, the objective is to at least plan, not be, when time comes and there is greater possibility of the connectivity being done through Afghanistan, it should not be a moment where we start scratching our heads and say we should do this and that. So there's a lot of work that is being done to see how connectivity can be ensured. Trade, our export limitation emanates. We, of course, have a big question on trade and how we can enhance trade in a city like Karachi, which has a great contribution to make to trade. There are issues that we need to address. Our export limitation emanates from scarcity of export surplus. Increasing diversity of our export basket is necessary. Presently, too much reliance on textiles. Enhancing price competitiveness of our products, opportunities of our energy crisis is overcome. Addressing tariff and non-tariff barriers. Increasing awareness and capacity of exporters to comply with the requisite technical and sanitary standards, and phytosanitary standards become a huge issue when we export outside, especially fruits, vegetables, etc. Efforts to address travel advisories, which we are trying to do with member states, and in this context I must thank Japan that has worked on certain parts of Pakistan to lower or improve its advisory in Pakistan, and we've been speaking to all our partners in this regard. Process to negotiate beneficial FTAs with many countries like Turkey, Iran underway. Now FTAs is a conversation that we all need to go and do, whether FTAs are beneficial or they are not beneficial. There are certain areas where countries with which they can be beneficial. But the most important thing is that these need to be negotiated in a manner where we look after our own interest as effectively as we take into account the concerns of our partners. Pakistan's accession to the International Convention on Transit Trade, TIR, is an opportunity for increasing trade and transit in neighboring countries. Pakistan, a natural economic hub. Pakistan's assets, you all know about that. Pakistan's growing macroeconomic indicators, positive outlook, financial credit ratings. We can discuss this, of course. Key challenges: complex neighborhood, belligerent India, volatile Afghanistan, competing interests of global powers in the region, Islamic world in turmoil, internal stability needs to be further enhanced, population growth and the youth out. And I'd also add to it the importance of having quality education. This is the place where that message can go very strongly from, because quality education, our huge challenge is that now we may have lots of people who may be graduates or have master's degrees or whatever, but are they internationally competitive? That's the point that we need to address. MOFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, IBA cooperation. We thought we could sort of throw some ideas here, developing case studies for the Foreign Service Academy, which could be helpful, specifically advise on methodology of developing case studies. How can we go about it? We can provide inputs in a collaborative manner. Development of result-based management system for the Foreign Office, keeping in mind our requirements. Innovation. In the recent 19th Congress that has been held in China, one of the points that has been of critical importance, and the earlier statements that have also been made by President Xi, the focus on innovation. We in Pakistan are not innovating. We do not have enough patents. We are not working to find where we can develop things in a way which is helpful to Pakistan and where we can advance our advantages. So this is an area where we can have discussions with you. We've been talking within the Foreign Office of the possibility of setting an intergovernmental group on innovation and seeing how we can work on it and how we can encourage or understand the importance of innovation and how to promote brand Pakistan. Big question. Thank you very much. Should I move?
For the question and answer, please take a seat.
Sure.
Is a big we. ISS is establishing itself in Afghanistan under the very nose of USA and NATO. Why don't we raise this issue at the UN level?
Well, yes, we need to do more on our lobbying. Why don't we raise ISIS and the presence of Daesh at the UN? We do raise it. We have been raising it in the UN, and we've been raising it with all our partners. And it's not only Pakistan who's been raising it, there are others within the region who've been also raising it.
So the next question is from Saifur Rahman. In today's article in Dawn, Dr. Pervez Mudhoy described Pakistan's role in Yemen war as that of tactical supporting Saudi Arabia, whilst it's blatantly commit war crimes. What steps do you believe we should take to pacify and end this conflict as a neutral party?
Pakistan has not been involved in the conflict in Yemen, and I think that has come out of the resolution that came out of the Parliament as well. What can we do as a neutral party? I think we've been always saying that we believe that there should be that OIC countries should ensure that all conflicts within OIC countries should come to an end, and we need to find a way out of this. So we hope that this conflict will also, through the work being done in the OIC, will be somehow addressed.
Syed Muaz Shah, you did not mention anything about OIC. Does Pakistan in its foreign policy give any weightage to it, especially since Turkey's progressive race in this regard and open support for Pakistan's of recent interest?
No, OIC is very important, but what I was trying to say is focus on issues of immediate concern to Pakistan. So we talked about the United States, we talked about Afghanistan, we talked about the Gulf region. The OIC, I mean, let's be frank, the OIC currently is not in such a cohesive form as it should be, and it poses many challenges. So it is important. We work within the OIC on several issues. We've always been grateful to the OIC for the various resolutions it's adopted on the situation in Jammu and Kashmir, as well as on other issues of interest to us. But the OIC needs to become more cohesive as well to address all issues that, there are many issues that are confronting the Islamic world.
The next question is from Syed Javed Hussain. Why don't you not see Char Bahar as a competitor of Gwadar?
Because we believe that it is being built, Gwadar has certain dimensions which Char Bahar does not. It has certain natural positives and certain natural strengths which Char Bahar does not. So if Iran is trying to build a port for its own economic interests, I don't think we should see it as a competitor. And in any case, Pakistan has the best of relations with Iran and would like to keep it so.
The next question is from Raja Kamran, New TV. Our bureaucracy is looking towards the west and not looking towards the east. What is your take?
No, our bureaucracy is not looking towards the west, and China is not the east. Some of the ASEAN countries are not the east. Our work within the Gulf is not the east. We are looking in a broader way than just the west.
The next question is from Muhammad Muzammil, IBA student. What is the Foreign Office trying to do in changing the perception that the foreign policy of Pakistan is determined by Pindi and not Islamabad?
Islamabad is the capital of Pakistan, so we determine the policy in Islamabad, of course. And of course, there is no foreign policy in the world that does not have a strategic input. Whether you look at Washington, I mean right now, Washington, where is foreign policy being made in Washington? There are 3 important generals who are determining foreign policy in Washington. I don't know if State Department has that kind of role as well. And you see it globally. So I don't think it should be, you can situate the foreign policy formulation only in one place. Foreign policy formulation is done through various factors, various stakeholders.
So the next question is by Ma'am Shahnaz Wazir Ali. While Pakistan's foreign policy focuses on political and economic issues, the weakest link is the connection with human resource development, especially the continued explosive population growth. How does the Foreign Office propose to connect the dots on education, health, and population planning?
We have been working with, and I shouldn't be answering this question, she knows the answer herself. Dr. Shahnaz Ali has been, Mrs. Shahnaz Ali has been on the forefront of addressing issues on education, population control, etc. And we do collaborate with many of our international partners in this regard. But frankly, the problem is not that of our international partners. It is our own problem. It is a problem that we need to address ourselves. If population growth is not controlled in Pakistan, no one from outside can come and tell us how to control it. If our education systems are not working, if we are not producing the most internationally competitive students, it's our fault. And we have to look at these issues ourselves. But we do reach out in the context of education through UNESCO, through many other international organizations as well. And there is work that we do with international, like DFID and other, we did with USAID as well in the context of education as well. So there is work that we do with our international partners. But at the end of the day, no one can tell us to stop growing if we don't stop growing ourselves.
Question from Muinuddin Haider Saab. Any feedback given to our Foreign Office on the recent visit of the Sharif brothers to the Saudi Arabia?
I think it was a private visit, and I shall say nothing more. General Saab, I've been 33 years in the Foreign Service. You'll have to have an elephant drank things out of me.
Gold TV. Madam, you recently met Chairman NAB. Did anything come out regarding the London cases of Mr. Nawaz Sharif?
ये आपको किसने खबर दी है?
Khalid Mahmood, how far have you been able to take Russia on our side given our problems with Afghanistan, India and USA?
We have regular conversations, we've had regular interaction with the Russian Federation, all our partners. I think there's a good understanding of each other's perspective on strategic issues, on how the region, trying to see how peace and stability can be brought about in Afghanistan. The Russians have an important interest, a significant interest in Afghanistan to see that there is peace and stability in the country and in the region. We respect that, and we hope that we can all work together with the Russians, with the Americans, with the Iranians, with the Chinese, with the Central Asian republics, because let me tell you that there's a working group that has been established of the SCO on Afghanistan, and that working group included, the last meeting was held in Moscow, and that meeting had representatives at the Deputy Foreign Minister level from all the countries of the SCO, and each of them had only one concern, and that was terrorism and the arrival of the Daesh in Afghanistan.
Nasheed Ahmed Saab wants to know, if Pakistan is neutral in the Middle East, why was General Sharif allowed to lead the Saudi-led force?
I think that question has been answered repeatedly by ISPR and by the Ministry of Defense. So I will not go into how General Sharif went and what is his role. Basically, he is leading the IMCTC, which has been put together to help countries fight terrorism. So the last meeting of the defense ministers that took place in Saudi Arabia basically focused on how to help countries who did not have the potential or did not have the capacity to help them fight terrorism within their borders.
Question from Shahid Mahmood. In case North Korean model of restrictions are applied in Pakistan, what will be our strategy?
I don't think there is any anomaly between Pakistan and the North Korean situation, because the North Korean situation is related to particular policies with regard their particular policies on missile control and their nuclear explosions, etc.
A question by Kamal Siddiqui. What compels Foreign Office to bring Arab dignitaries to hunt the endangered species like the Bara bustard in Pakistan?
Pakistan, it's not the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that's been compelled, it's been the policy of the past 30, 40 years, so it's nothing new that we are doing. And of course, in any case, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does not have the administrative control of these things, because it's at the end of the day a subject. No, you can say no, but I can talk to you about it later. It is done by provincial governments, and it is also it's been done for the last 40 years in a controlled manner.
Question by Muhammad Usman. To what extent does the political change after the election affect our foreign policy?
Let's see when the elections take place. I don't think there's any major change in our policy. There's been a continuity of our foreign policy for a very long time. The major aspects of our foreign policy may have shades of differences, but they've largely remained the same.
Muhammad Arif wants to know that our border management with Afghanistan relies heavily on US aid. How will it be managed in case of suspension of US aid?
I don't think it is relied on US aid, because the border posts that are being constructed did not necessarily come out of monies that came from the United States. It's been done by Pakistan through its own resources. But obviously it's a huge undertaking, so whether we'll be able to do all of that, because it's a huge territory that has to be covered.
Shumaila Afzal is asking that after Trump's tweet, does Pakistan's foreign office considering economic and political relationship with Korea and the Central Asian countries?
No, not because of tweet. We should do it anyway.
Sajad Ahmed's question is, CPEC is passing through a disputed region of Gilgit-Baltistan, which both in Pakistan and India maintain as disputed. Is Pakistan taking any steps to resolve the status of Gilgit-Baltistan?
Does anyone accept that any disputed territory should not have development? I think any part of the world should be developed. So the status of Jammu and Kashmir, as it remains, is a dispute which has been recognized by the UN Security Council, and the UN Security Council resolutions have provided the way on how to deal with this issue. So that, as it stands, development of any area should not be affected by any country's view that an area is disputed or not.
Shabir Qasmi's question is that in the recent years, Pakistan has been a little apologetic in our demeanor, whereas our forefathers were used to use very aggressive language in foreign policy. So why the shift?
Which forefathers were aggressive? Are you talking about the Rajputs, my forefathers? They fought wars. But let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story that one of my Janjua brothers once said, we have been mentioned in the Babarnama. And when we opened the Babarnama, it said, when Babar came, the Janjua tribe went and gave them horses and allowed them to pass. So that's how aggressive the Janjuas were. I'm sorry, I'm taking a pun on my own family.
Okay, the question, I'm sorry.
No, you have read the question indirectly. I have written why Pakistan follows such an apologetic attitude, whereas Pakistan, whose FOE
I'm sorry.
follow such
aggressive. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry for my mistake. I thought it was forefathers.
No, but anyway, sorry.
Please go ahead.
I don't know which of our forefathers followed an aggressive foreign policy.
He said foes as in enemies.
Sorry?
So our enemies use a very aggressive language, whereas we are apologetic.
as Ministry of Foreign Affairs, if you are asking me a question as a foreign service person, it is my responsibility and it is my job to ensure that we have the best relations with all countries. We are not going to be apologetic, but we will be positively principled and we will present our points of view to our partners, whether they are friends or enemies, in a principled way, but not in a way where it invites aggression. We were at a meeting yesterday, and there was a point that was made in the Senate, the National Assembly Standing Committee, and one of the honourable members of the Parliament said that war begins where diplomacy ends. So we don't want diplomacy to end.
Dr. Michael, I can't read the first name, so I'm just going by the second name. What is the stance of Pakistan over its inclusion in the so-called list of the countries where religious minorities have difficult circumstances?
It's not in the list of countries where minorities have difficult circumstances. If anyone has decided to put Pakistan in a category because of legitimate reasons, accepted. But if it is being done for political reasons, we will express concern and we will issue a press release on this as a Ministry of Foreign Affairs Ministry. In Pakistan, we've been working on these issues. We will continue to work on these issues. These are problems that not only Pakistan faces, but many countries, even the most advanced countries in the world, cannot claim that they don't have human rights problems. The United States is one example. There are many European countries that are example. When the burden of refugees came on the European countries, their repeated demands of countries like ours to sign on to the 1951 Convention on Refugees was thrown out of the window. And you can see what happened after that. So we all have problems and we all need to address these problems. In our own neighborhood, if you're talking about the recent report that's come out, the United States reports that come out, we are quite amazed that in our neighborhood, people are being lynched for eating beef, and people are being lynched for being Muslims or being from other religions or other minorities. And yet their name has not occurred, has not been included. So there's politics. So if there's politics, we have to recognize that. But yes, we as a nation have to do more within our own country to find solutions to problems that we are faced with. It is not because we are in a report or outside a report, but it is because we owe it to our own people.
A question by Amina Sayyadji. What will Pakistan do to use cultural diplomacy like literature festivals to promote and brand Pakistan?
Let me tell you, when I was in Italy, we did every year, the 3 years I was there, we did every year a Pakistan Literature Day. The first year, we did a Pakistan Literature Day on literature that was translated, Pakistani literature that was translated into Italian. We had readings done. We did some really interesting work on it. The next year, we had poetry. We had Shima Kirmani Sahiba come and do presentation of Pakistani poetry through dance, and it was greatly appreciated. And then we had some writers, and the year after that we had some writers who had written in English, but who came and read out their pieces as well. So I think there is a need for all missions, our missions, with the help of all of you, to work on these issues, to present. I just do not like the word soft image, because there's no such thing as soft image. It is our real image that we have to present outside. So we have to go out with your help our embassies need to go out with your help to present the real image of Pakistan.
This person has named himself, it says IB alumni. Could Trump's tweet be explained as simply Trump being his usual reckless self, or maybe Trump appeasing his domestic political base? What do you think?
Both. Yes, his domestic base, yes, being himself, and yes, there may be other reasons. There may be the presence of China, there may be not the presence of China, the fact that Pakistan and China are close, that the region, the fact that they are not doing too well in Afghanistan, the fact, there are many reasons that could have led to this tweet. The question is, was it a well thought through tweet, or was it his impulsive self? I can't read into his mind.
Question by Shireen Fatma. Pakistan has opted for a policy of maintaining cordial relations with China and Russia, while USA recently has shown hostility towards both. How do you think this factor will affect Pak-US relations?
I think we have to be grown up and positive towards all our partners, and I think the United States will also accept the fact that they have relations also with China and Russia, and that it is for each country to determine how these relations are carried out.
A question by Saqib Mushtaq. Do you think that Trump's tweet is a failure of Pakistan's foreign policy? Don't you think India is doing a better job of maligning Pakistan's position?
I get up every morning and everything that happens in the world is a failure of Pakistan's foreign policy. Give us a break.
I'm sorry, some of the writing is so bad that it's like some doctor has written a prescription. So please excuse me for that. And I do want to ask how much time do we have? I think we can. So, yeah.
I think I can be forgiven now.
So, two more questions. If anybody in the front row would like to ask a question, please. Yeah. Can we pass on the mic, please?
See, Madam Secretary, excellent presentation. Regarding the US, I think over the past few years, we have not had any American firm to advocate and lobby for us in the true sense. At the same time, the Pakistani diaspora organization, they're fighting, and they consider themselves either they are based on some political party or through some sensitive agency or whatever. That is what I felt there. The Pakistan caucus in the Congress, many countries have the caucus. In 2007, when as President of Karachi Chamber, I led a delegation there, Pakistan has 78 congressmen and women who are members of the Pakistan caucus. I even convinced Kenneth Ellison, who was the first Muslim, and also Mike Pence, who was from the place where I studied in Indiana. And they were also willing to go there. Yesterday, I was looking at the list of members of the Pakistan caucus. From 70 to 80 or maybe more, Sheikh Saab would also know. It has dwindled to 34. And out of the 34, there are two people, Congressman Ted Poe Houston and Dana Rosebacker, who talks about Balochistan. They are in the Congress and they might also leave the Pakistan caucus. There is no chairman. Then
can you please ask the question? I'm sorry, because that's exactly why we moderated all of this.
My take is that, it is high time that Pakistan should look into those people over there and who can be our advocates and lobbyists behind them, who know them, who know Pakistan. I think about it. That's what I would want to say. Thank you.
We are not only thinking about it, we are doing something about it.
A question by Kaisar Bengali. Down to almost every woman and man in Afghanistan, everyone hates Pakistan with an intensity that only the most... I'm sorry, I can't read some of it, but anyways, please... Okay, so what is Pakistan doing to react to this and to the people of Pakistan, to the people of Afghanistan? To reach out to the people of Afghanistan.
We have more than, I think, 48,000 or more than that Pakistani educated Afghans working in important in positions or unimportant positions, important positions in Afghanistan. So I'm not too sure if all of them hate us, but yes, I accept that we need to do more, that we need to reach out, and we are trying to see, to work on that. I don't want to go and elaborate on a lot of points here because I see the media as well, which is going to make a headline of anything I say. So, so I'm trying to be as cautious as possible. But let me assure you that we are working on it.
So the last question is from somebody in the media, but they have not put down their name. Yesterday, Asif Ali Zardari said that our foreign minister speaks English in Punjabi. Is that so? After Mujahideen were our heroes in the 1980s, after 9/11, they have become terrorists. So what exactly is our policy? And that's the last question.
How the Mujahideen were looked at by the world is obviously different from what they were looked at by the world in post 1978. There are, you can go into a whole prognosis of what happened and how these people were, some of them were deliberately brought in many parts of the world, how they are looked at now. So these are changing times, and obviously the reality is that now they're on the different side and hence being looked at differently.
This was the last question. Thank you very much, Themina, Janjua, for your time and your patience. Please stay here for a bit. I would now request the Dean and the Director to please give a souvenir to our honored